All right, let's move on to how to instantiate objects using those constructors we just made. So a good way to think about a class is like a blueprint for a building or a car or some kind of physical object. It isn't the object itself, it's just the plan, like the framework for how to make something. And then the object is like the thing, the physical car or house that you actually make using that blueprint. So we are always going to instantiate objects in a different class from the class in which they are defined. So we couldn't call an animal object from within the animal class because the object uses the class itself to make the object. So that wouldn't work. So in this case, classes kind of act like their own variables. You're going to list the class type and give the object a name. And then you're going to use the new command or the new keyword, which it's just a reference. So the object itself, or sorry, let me backtrack. The object name, the name of the object, isn't actually the object itself. It's just a reference to the actual object. And this has to do with how these things are treated within the actual memory structure of the computer. And so when we use the new command, that actually creates the object in the computer's memory. And we just attach the name to this object so that we can use the name to, edit the object in the memory. And we always want to give the same number of parameters as we defined in your constructor, in our constructors. And if you define more than one constructor, then you can choose. So in our example, we gave, well, I think I have it on in, yeah, here we go. So we're in our main class right now. And we're in our public static void main, the main method. And I have instantiated two objects of the animal class. Animal 1 was instantiated using the default constructor, so there's no parameters. And animal 2 was instantiated using the parameterized constructor. And you can see when I called that constructor, I inserted frog and 20 for the species and the lifespan. Cool. So we're going to do a quick little practice exercise. Shouldn't take too long, not too complicated. So look at this sample program here and think, what will the output be for this code snippet and why? And use the constructor definitions that we just went over to interpret how we are instantiating these objects. So I'll give you a second to do that, and then I'll go over what's going to happen here. Hopefully, you've had a second to look this over and make a guess about what the output is going to be. So now I'll go over it. So, like I said before, animal 1 is constructed with the default constructor. And remember, the default constructor, if there's no parameters being passed, it's just going to set the species to an empty string and the lifespan to 0. And then animal 2 is constructed with the parameterized constructor. And so that just assigns the object to the object variables to the variables that are passed into that constructor. So when we print out the attributes of both of these, we have the animal 1 species is just empty. There's nothing there. Blank string. Animal 1 lifespan is 0. Animal 2 species is frog. And animal 2 lifespan is 20. So hopefully that makes sense based on what we just talked about.